she was, building an anti-crypto army. She actually had posted this on her Twitter, taking aim at the industry. And in particular, she had a public post about proof of reserves and calling people that provide proof of reserves, sham auditors and all these negative detractions about providing transparency to the space.
Accounting crypto means thousands of transactions, fluctuating prices, multiple wallets, exchanges, and bank accounts. One mistake means inaccurate reports, compliance risks, and wasted hours. KoinX Books simplifies it all. Seamlessly import transactions, automate categorization, and get real-time insights, fast, accurate, stress-free. KoinX Books, your solution to the chaos.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Web3 Accountant Radio Season 2. Today we have with us Jeremy. He's the partner of a network firm, one of the leading crypto audit firm globally, and also the co-creator of LedgerLens, the one and only crypto audit SaaS. Hi Jeremy.
Hi Wei, thanks for having me.
Hi Jeremy, as we are recording this, we have just gone through the 1.5 million Bybit loss. How is it on your end?
Oh man, it's been an interesting couple days, certainly. I do think the Bybit team handled it pretty well. They were very transparent throughout the process, but want to see how the fallout of the impact is over the next couple of weeks, months, and who knows how long the impacts could be.
Yeah, we have seen some movements in the markets in the last few days. It's been pretty interesting. But okay, the markets aside, right? I mean, from your long history working in the crypto finance space itself, performing audits and providing accounting advisory, etc. Can you share with us what is one of your most favorite or hated clients?
Yeah, thanks, Wei. So just a little bit of background. So I'm a partner at the network firm, and we provide audit, accounting, full service accounting firm services. But what's unique about the network firm is that we also have pioneered in the area of proof of reserves. So for me, I'm not going to name a specific client that I like the best, to preserve my independence. But I will say the types of engagements that I find the most interesting and enjoyable, and that is those proof of reserves engagements. Proof of reserves can take a couple different forms, like, you can do it for stable coins or ETFs or exchanges. But the ones for exchanges are the most, challenging, interesting, and different. So we were actually the first firm to do a Merkle tree proof of reserves by a CPA firm back in 2020. And these engagements, they combine kind of traditional financial accounting with like asset and liability reconciliation, but then also very technical components of crypto, right? You have to get balances at multiple addresses for, hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of addresses. So you have to think about the technical challenges there. And then also how to prove ownership of all these assets too. So you sometimes have to get creative. A lot of technical expertise comes in, and also use your traditional accounting knowledge. So those are my favorite types of engagements.
Wow, with so many tokens and chains available out there and increasingly improving itself, it must not be definitely not an easy task for you to do it. So I say this is maybe why you came up with LedgerLens, because you realized that there is no tool for you to easily do proof of reserve.
That's exactly why we were actually doing these engagements ourselves, and we realized like, wow, we've built all these tools internally. It wasn't pretty, right? But it got the job done. They realized, wow, in order to provide more trust and transparency to the space and tool up auditors, not everyone's going to have a dev team to build out this stuff, right? So maybe we can take off the burden to some of these firms, globally. So that was definitely the impetus for creating LedgerLens.
Yeah, I think for many exchanges globally, especially the bigger ones, the financial statements might not be readily available, but the proof of reserve is available to ensure that the customer funds at least are backed by digital assets itself. And I think there's a lot of value in finding a third-party CPA to acknowledge it. I think Tether at least does that as well.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, like you mentioned, like proof of reserves can be more frequently done than your financial statement audit. And then oftentimes your audits, like they're not publicly available. Like you don't see Binance's or BitGets or, you don't see their financials. So you don't know, right? What's unique about proof of reserves too is that they can be made publicly distributable and done more frequently. So definitely some pros to proof of reserves that I think the industry can benefit from.
So okay, aside from that, is there any interesting or must share story that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, over the years, we started the network firm actually after FTX and right at the beginning of 2023. And it was a very politicized time for crypto, obviously, after that. And, for the last few years. But we had a pretty interesting story. There was a very popular or powerful, I guess, anti-crypto politician, and she was, building an anti-crypto army. She actually had posted this on her Twitter, taking aim at the industry. And in particular, she had a public post about proof of reserves and calling people that provide proof of reserves, sham auditors and all these negative detractions about providing transparency to the space. And I think what they were trying to do, it was kind of in conjunction with Operation Choke Point, where they were debanking crypto companies. They were trying to choke off or kneecap the industry by providing anything of value or of transparency or of service to the industry. And even accounting firms were in the crosshairs. So that was a pretty interesting time. And given the fact that we were kind of the leading proof of reserves provider at that time, we took it personally, if you will. I think it was very much directed towards us and a few others like us. But then about 3 months later, I think we had some vindication when a U.S. state, Texas, and other states actually, like Wyoming, they've actually embedded proof of reserves as part of their laws in their state, essentially giving us credence that, hey, we're sham auditors, we were doing something valuable with the industry, and that this sentiment was kind of really misguided. And it's interesting in the federal bills in the U.S., like the countrywide bills, they've actually mentioned proof of reserves multiple times, including for like the strategic Bitcoin reserve and for stablecoin legislation. So I think it's being acknowledged that transparency in this manner is a good thing. But it was just a weird time when that was happening a couple years ago.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, for people who is going against, we're saying the usefulness of proof of reserve today. We have OKX, we have Binance, we have the biggest exchanges investing a lot of their funds into proof of reserve. And I think this time shows that this technology or this report has a value. And most importantly, stable coins. You want to know that your stable coins are backed by what they say they are backed by. Yeah.
100%. And what's really cool about Purple Reserves too is that it was born from the industry. Like oftentimes we'll take innovation from traditional finance and kind of embed it into crypto, but there's these like AMMs, like in Uniswap, that was like a very crypto native thing that was very unique to crypto. So is Proof of Reserves, right? It was actually proposed by a couple Bitcoin developers in 2013 after Mt. Gox, and it was a industry way of kind of providing trust, without the traditional system, even without CPAs at that time. So it's cool that there's these industry native innovations that can now be more broadly applied. I don't know why even banks or Venmo, PayPal, or other Fort Knox apparently needs a proof of reserves. So I think it can be applied in traditional finance as well.
Yeah, and also for every up and coming exchange, they should look at incorporating this into their exchange website to show the customer the funds. Yeah. So I mean, what's your proudest achievements to date? Can you name one?
Yeah. So I will say we've had a couple that we're really proud of. I mentioned we did the first ever kind of CPA assisted proof of reserves. That was in 2020. That was very cool and novel at the time. We also launched a real-time reporting system, the first real-time reporting system that issues CPA attestations for stablecoins. We launched that in 2019. And then as a add-on to that system, we actually we pull data in from the blockchains and from the banks holding the reserves, right? Ingest it within the system, report on it in a CPA report, but then we would take that same data and then we would provide it to an Oracle network like Chainlink, and then they would publish it on chain for use in smart contracts and in DeFi. So those were, I think, our proudest innovations. Those were, pretty cool. And why we care is that we think, as we think about the future of the accounting and audit profession, it's like, what are those future services going to look like? And that's really what we're building for. It's that next generation of accounting and audit services in a world where all assets are digital assets.
I see. So, I mean, Jeremy, I've asked you like three questions, and I realized that all three are related to proof of reserve. Just a burning question from myself. What's your thoughts on the proof of reserve do not capture liabilities? So, like we just recently the Bybit got hacked and they're able to come out with a proof of reserve in three days to say that their assets are backed. But I think according to public information, a lot of the assets are loaned. So it's not their asset per se. So would we be seeing a proof of liability or something like that?
Yeah, certainly. So that's been one of the notes for proof of reserves is that it is not by itself going to give you all the assurance that you need related to kind of everything that goes on in an exchange. We have like a graphic on our website that says, hey, proof of reserves is part of a stack. You should have a proof of reserves, a financial audit, a SOC 1, a SOC 2, and maybe, some other ISO 27001, these types of things. They're complementary pieces of this transparency and assurance stack. You mentioned liabilities, right? Like in a traditional proof of reserves, the scope is limited to customer assets and liabilities. So that's really the focus there. And why there's a CPA or an accounting firm is valuable in that context is the incentive is for an exchange to hide customer liabilities or hide liabilities, and an external party can validate that you weren't actually lying about those liabilities. It's harder to lie about assets, right? Because you prove ownership of them and show them, but it's much easier to lie about the liabilities because they're just records on your database, and you can manipulate them.
But that's where the Merkle tree tracking would allow customers to do verification on the proof of reserve itself. But yeah, I hear you, but it's very important, like, when we talk maybe vitamins or something, proof of reserve is only one of the item in the full stack that exchange should provide to give customers a safer kind of feeling, and also engaging a CPA firm to do it instead of being doing it themselves might give them a slightly higher chance of transparency and a third party check itself. So before we end the podcast, do you have a lesson for other Web3 finance or compliance professionals? Just one. I believe you can give a 1-day lecture on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. For your audience, this might be falling on deaf ears a little bit, but if it hasn't clicked for any of your audience, at their core, blockchains really they're accounting ledgers. They're literally ledgers, tracking debits and credits. And when you go to an Explorer, maybe it looks a little bit confusing, right? But when you get to the details of it, and when you start to parse, hey, oh, this is actually just a credit to account or a debit account, you realize that these are really in our domain, right? This is for our profession to really grab a hold of, understand, and be leaders at this technology because they're accounting ledgers at their core. So I would say, for us as accounting compliance audit professionals and even exchange listeners and all these, different potential listeners for you, we should try and innovate in this space. There's, with these new assets, there becomes new tooling needed, new accounting treatments, obviously, that are needed, new engagement types that are going to be needed. So there's a huge place for innovation, which typically doesn't happen in compliance or audit or accounting. But with this new tech, there's a huge opportunity. So I think this is an area that we should do our best to lead. That's my CTA, my call to action.
Thank you, Jeremy. So I think other than the innovation side, I think that there's one side of Jeremy that he didn't share, but I want to share is I think he's very friendly and he has shared a lot of knowledge outside, and made in network firm or Ledgerland's blog itself. You can find a lot of crypto audit for your own reading. And if you have more questions, real client questions, feel free to ping Jeremy to find out more. I think the amount of sharing that Jeremy has done publicly, including joining our podcast, is very admirable in a world where there's a lot of opportunities. So yeah, with that, if you like the Web3 Accountant Radio's podcast, please do subscribe to us, and we would have more episodes coming up. Yeah, any last words from you, Jeremy?
I think you covered it all, Way. Appreciate your time, and thanks, everyone. Yeah, feel free to reach out. We're at thenetworkfirm.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter at jeremy.nau CPA, I believe it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I will put it all in the subtitles. Thank you.
Thanks, Way.